Welcome to the Android Guys Hot Take. Today we are talking about Android 9.0 Pie. With me today are editors Andrew Myrick and Donovan Jeska to talk about the new update. Guys, it has been quite a while since we have done one of these podcasts. How the hell are you doing?
Doing pretty good.
Doing all right over here.
Man, don't sound so enthusiastic. I hope you guys are more pumped up about the new update that we got a little bit early, thinking we were going to get it here in a couple weeks, but it dropped a little bit early. Do either of you have phones that can run it yet?
Oh yeah, OnePlus 6 is compatible. Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm rocking the Pixel 2 XL.
Awesome. Andrew, what's your favorite new feature that you've seen so far?
My favorite new feature, probably the multitasking. To be honest.
Yeah, you like the new pane.
Yeah, I'm coming from an iPhone X, so gesture control is. I picked it up pretty easily.
Okay. Do you think that there's more functionality in that new multitasking, or does it take a? For me, it always felt like it took a little bit longer to get to where I wanted to go with that.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother me as much now that I'm used to it because I've been using P for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that kind of frustrates me is getting into the app drawer because it's
Yeah.
either one very long, slow swipe up, or you got to do a double swipe to access it.
Do you think that learning curve is going to frustrate people? Because it's one of the biggest changes that we've seen from Androids in terms of navigation since they went to on-screen buttons only or removed the search button.
Yeah, I do see people getting frustrated because people like to be, kind of stuck in their ways and are used to a certain way of things working.
Yeah.
But as long as Google includes the option for you to choose the old school or the old style navigation bar, I think everything will be fine. And then those who want to tinker around and play with the new gestures, they can.
So as you just said, you split the line on operating systems. You use iOS as much as you use Android, and you've got an iPhone 10, which obviously has the gesture controls. Do you think that what Android is doing here is as intuitive as it is to use on the iPhone X? Or is easy to use, easy to pick up?
For me, yeah. I think I had like a day where I didn't fully get, like I would press the wrong thing or I would make the wrong movement on the screen. But then after that, I was perfectly fine. Now, if you're coming from like if you're coming from like a Galaxy S7, like if you're going to pick up the Pixel 3 and get it from a Galaxy S7 because it's been 2 years or whatever, then it might take a little bit longer because you're used to an actual home button. I'm not sure how other people are going to feel about that.
Donovan, what do you think about the new gesture navigation?
I'm really excited about it. I think gesture navigation is kind of the future, especially in a time where screen real estate is at a premium.
Mm-hmm.
The more screen real estate you have, the better. I think the gesture navigation is kind of a misnomer almost because you still have that button at the bottom. It's just kind of a graphic representation of your gestures.
Yeah.
I think people are going to struggle picking it up. I mean, my parents still struggle with the on-screen nav buttons because they don't know what the three indicators mean. So I think it'll be interesting. I think the more iterations we see and the more competition between Apple and Google, the better.
What has been your new favorite feature that you've seen so far?
Yeah, I'm a battery guy. I need to have a long battery because I'm a power user. So I'm pretty excited for the battery improvements with their adaptive battery. I think I saw the 20% increase number thrown around, and if it gets anything close to that, that'll be great.
Getting 20% more out of your battery would be amazing. I'm not quite sure if I believe that that's going to be, a real possibility because that could bump you from 5 to 6 hours of screen on time, or get you into that second day of usage. So, I mean, that would be a crazy bump, and if that is true and they can prove it, I mean, they better shout that from the rooftops, put it on every commercial that they can think of, because as we all know, battery life and cameras are king.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like people want bigger batteries. If only some of the larger OEMs would think about that when they were making
No, everyone wants slimmer phones. Don't you know that?
them.
Bigger batteries, silly.
3,000 milliamps is obviously the standard.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that because when I got into phones, back around when the first iPhone came out and, we first started seeing Androids, 3,000 milliamp hours is, I mean, that would have lasted you 3 weeks.
It was huge.
So what else do you like? What else did you see that you liked in the operating system with this update, Donovan?
The truly adaptive screen brightness kind of caught my eye, especially considering most people look at screen brightness and they're thinking it's already adaptive.
Mm-hmm.
But this is truly adaptive, meaning that it learns from your behaviors when you like the screen at max brightness, when you like it at low brightness, and things like that, as opposed to just relying on the light sensor on the phone.
So we saw Google, even with the update name, emphasize that this is an AI operating system. Is this adaptive brightness and the battery that you're talking about? Is that more of what they're talking about with their AI initiatives in this operating system?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, AI in terms of like a pop culture standpoint doesn't mean the same thing as the AI we're talking about here.
Yeah.
In this, it's more like a machine learning based on your inputs rather than Skynet trying to take over the world.
Andrew, is AI all it's cracked up to be, or are these small changes that people aren't really going to notice?
Pardon me, it's getting there, I think. Google is like really killing it, and Apple's trying to catch up with their new Siri shortcuts in terms of like the AI game and stuff like that. But
Those look cool.
yeah, I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. I mean, even if it's just incremental updates, it's better than staying stagnant for too long.
So speaking of stagnant, does this update just feel kind of plain to you? I mean, there's no. To me, it feels like there's no like show-stopping features. It's a collection of smaller stuff. There's not, Project Butter or anything like that in this. Are you guys whelmed? Are you overwhelmed? What's your excitement level to actually put this on your phones?
I mean, I dropped my iPhone X. Like, I'm not using it anymore. I went and bought a Pixel 2 XL just for P.
Wow.
It's not flashy. It's not fancy, but it's long. In my opinion, it's long overdue. It seems to fix a lot of qualms and quirks that I had about Android previously, and seems a lot more solid overall. Like, I was running P for the last 3 weeks or so through the beta program, and I had some stutters and stuff like that. Some random stuff would stop working, but overall it was extremely smooth. And now that I have the final product and the day and a half that I've had it on here, it just is everything that I've been wanting for Android to become, kind of thing.
What do you think, Donovan?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, people will look at the feature list, and as you said, there's no show-stopping feature. But at the same time, people consider show-stopping features to be features you can see, like Google's material design, for example, is a show-stopping or a game changer. But I don't think it necessarily has to be. There's a lot of really convenient, really user-friendly features, including in this update, and I think it's going to be great for the operating system.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are treating this update as while there isn't a huge feature for me to call out in this, I feel like a lot of people are treating this as a really important stepping stone. I believe it was Chris Carlton over at Android Authority called this, like a maturity update. Android is finally mature enough to have updates like this where they don't have to focus on just adding features or just polishing. They can do a little of both. They can add some really nice features that we appreciate. They can squash some of those bugs, and people will be really happy about that. So
yeah, that's a great insight by Android Authority. Absolutely, a maturity update is a great way to phrase that.
Yeah. So updates aren't perfect. What are we seeing in this that features we may have missed out on, or stuff that they put in there that we don't necessarily like.
So the one that really stands out to me is the notch support. Google's baked in support for up to 3 notches on a phone, and I have to ask, where would the other 2 notches on a phone be? Ideally, you'd have less than 3 notches on a phone, right?
Well, you got your top notch, and then your bottom notch, and then your side notch, obviously.
I mean, if you're looking at a phone that already has no bezel on the sides, why would you then need to add a notch? It seems like a step backward to me.
Yeah, Andrew, what do you think? Are you okay with the notch life? Or, I mean, you got an iPhone X, iPhone 10, so kind of seems like it. But how do you feel about Android building in notch support?
I have a feeling we're going to see some stupid phone released in the next like 2 or 3 months, if not sooner, that has 3 notches, and Google's going to be like, "Told you guys, we were ready for it."
I had to have it. Had to have those 3 notches. Yep. We don't know what's in them, but we needed them.
And the tech press is going to go insane. Oh my God, this innovative phone with 3 notches.
Look at all these notches. You didn't know you needed 3.
I can hear Kellen from Droid Life sighing right now.
Right. It'll just be a collective sigh across the tech universe. But I mean, I don't. In terms of the notch itself, it doesn't bother me. 3 notches, that's just dumb. I don't know why you would use 2 notches, but in terms of just having the 1, which is okay with me, I don't have an issue with that.
Okay, so here's something that I've been thinking about for the last couple of days. OnePlus has always been looked at as, they've been branding their phones, not so much recently, but in the beginning, as the flagship killer. Is Android Pie the Android skin killer?
No.
No? Why not?
Nope. Because Samsung's going to do what the hell it wants to do.
No, see, that's not what I mean. You can go buy another phone other than OnePlus. It obviously hasn't killed the flagship, but it puts out an amazing, compelling product. Is Android 9, Android Pie so good that people are going to be like, I want that phone because of that software? Google has always had the upper hand in software because they release patches every month for security, get all the new features first. But LG, Samsung, these big guys, they still put skins on their phones. Is this going to be the software where people are like, I'm going to buy the Pixel because it has that software on it?
I think the people that buy Pixels already have that mindset. I don't think Google's going to steal any market share away from Samsung with this, because people that buy Samsungs, they're similar to people that buy iPhones in that way. They kind of stick with their brand. Samsung is dedicated to making Android its own, even if it doesn't actually innovate much.
Yeah, but I could theoretically see LG making a move, like to a more stock feel, and I feel like they kind of have. It's not LG's software doesn't feel anywhere near as bad as it used to, and it's definitely nowhere near as bad as Samsung. But we see OnePlus, Motorola, Essential all bringing almost stock like experiences. I could see LG doing it. I don't know if that's going to help them sell more phones, but I also agree with Donovan about how Google's not going to take market share away from Samsung. People who want to buy Samsung are going to buy Samsung, and that's just pretty much it.
See, I think this is a long-term play because you have a lot of cheaper devices that are running, Android Go, Android One, stock Android now. You got, let's take Nokia, for example. They're throwing out phones that are pretty cheap, running stock Android. Essential, I mean, gosh, you could get the Essential phone for $250 during Prime Day. That's unreal.
It's also a dead company, but I mean,
well, that's a topic for another time. I'll just on that one. But all of these companies are raking in huge market share. I didn't even mention Motorola, who's like the king of budget phones. Everybody there runs stock Android. how long do you think people are just going to keep buying Samsungs when their first device was stock Android and maybe their second device was stock Android? You really think they're going to jump into, a huge heavy skin that's unrecognizable from the first couple phones that they've used? I don't know. I really think that Android Pie is that update that's going to start the stock Android like avalanche.
The revolution.
Yeah, the revolution, the stock Android revolution. We've been waiting for that since Nexus phones came out, but I don't know. That I feel it coming. Google has gotten really, really aggressive, obviously, with coming out with their own hardware, and I really feel like they're gonna start to push stock Android even more.
In addition to coming out with their own hardware, they're also locking down Android more. I mean, it's becoming more and more proprietary and less open. I think the second Google flips that switch and says, hey, you either make our phones using our aesthetic or you don't make our phones, that's when Samsung is going to fall off, because then it doesn't have the advantage of being a Samsung phone. It's just Android.
I don't know. I don't ever see that necessarily happening, but I do think that this will hurt anybody who doesn't use stock. In 5 years, it's going to be a completely different conversation, because I think most phones are going to run stock Android.
And they'll have 20 notches.
Yes.
In 5 years, we'll be at Project Fuchsia.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
4 notches on the back and 6 on the front.
Yep.
Keeping with the software side of things, I think the thing I'm most excited about is actually the fact that Essential released a day one update.
I know.
With Android Pie. Like, I saw that shortly after the release of Pie for Pixel users. And while I was feverishly tapping my check for update, I saw on Twitter that Essential released the update. I'm like, there's no way.
That's pretty damn cool.
I know. I thought at first that all of the phones that opted into the beta were going to get it on day one. And I was like feverishly messing with my OnePlus 6, like, oh yes, I want it right now, and then I see that it's only Essential, and I'm like, no, I had one of those phones, I want it back. I should have bought one on Prime Day. Dang it!
I just
so
think
close yet so far.
I think that blows my mind, and that's my biggest gripe with Android phones in general, is that devices don't get day one updates for brand new like software releases.
Or even year one updates, for that matter. Samsung.
Yeah. Right. I mean, yeah, look at all of these phones that are $900, $1,000, and even cheaper, finger quotes there, cheaper flagships like the LG G7. I mean, that phone is not going to see an update to Pi until early next year at the earliest, you would think. You're going out spending anywhere between $600 and $1,000 on a phone, and you're not getting the newest software for 6+ months after, and you can go buy a phone for $300 or $400 and it's day one got those updates. That's a game changer. That's a great point, Andrew.
Yeah, I think that's my number one gripe with going with one of the top tier OEMs, LG, Samsung, HTC, is that the second they release a phone, specifically a flagship phone, they're basically done with it. They're like, hey, here's our product. Look for the next one next year.
Yep.
They don't care anymore about your phone once it's in your hands. It's like a new car, They sold it to you. Their part's done.
Yep. They got your money.
You took it off the lot. It's on you now.
Yep.
We look forward to getting your $1,000 next year too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for them to support their phones for more than 3 or 4 months while it's still new and fancy.
Well, and honestly, why should we, or why should they? Because most of the people are updating or getting new phones every 1 to 2 years. So, if they're just going to go out and buy a new phone in a year, why would we update the old one? That makes no sense for them. They're just pouring money into a dead product.
Customer retention.
They don't care. There's too many people buying phones.
All right. They have us caught into the 2-year cycle, and now we're stuck.
Well, you try using a phone that's 3 or 4 years old and tell me how happy you're going to be.
Oh man, my parents use those, and I'm like, I will buy you a new phone for your birthday just so you have one.
Yeah, man, go try to use like a Samsung Galaxy S5.
Oh god, it's so bad.
Not a great experience right now. All right, that'll wrap it up for us. This has been Android Guys Hot Take. If you want to hear more about Android Pie, head on over to AndroidGuys.com right now. We covered the crap out of this subject. Go ahead and take a look at our announcement thread. It goes into more detail than we'd be able to in 7 or 8 hours of doing this, and you don't want to hear us drag on for that long. And there's plenty of other articles. If you want to see how you can install Android Pie on your phone, head on over. We have got a list right now of what phones can get it and how to put it on there. We would like to thank our sponsor, Blue Microphones, for hooking us up. If you want to sound as good as we do, head on over to AndroidGuys.com. Click on the link for this post or for this podcast. We will put a link to Blue Microphones right there so you can get exactly what we're using. That'll wrap it up. Andrew, Donovan, thanks for joining me. This has been the Android Guys Hot Take. Catch you later.